Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products as we move through the 21st century. And as we go to a planet with 9 billion people, how are we going to be able to take care of all the basic needs that they have? One of those, of course, is potable water. And at the same time, how are we going to be able to grow all the crops that are going to be needed as we may have some 12 to 13 billion by the end of the 21st century. And I have a gentleman sitting right beside me who's actively involved in all that, looking at Washington, D.C. as actually a national and international model as far as water harvesting and to capture all the water that's coming out, but in a very different form than it has been in the past. This is Gore Bolton. He is a professional engineer, also a professional land surveyor, so he's certainly multiple talented, and AMT LLC Consulting Engineers and Land Surveyors. And Gore, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you here. Tell us a little bit about AMT and what it does and a little bit its history, and then we'll get into the meat of all this, which is these water credits for stormwater runoff.
Sure. AMT is a consulting engineering practice. We work for municipal governments as well as private landowners in order to obtain permits and be able to treat stormwater management plans as well as water and sewer and other types of geotechnical and subsurface utilities.
It's really incredible, Gore, that you have this specialty, because this is really coming to the fore not only in Washington, D.C., but all around the globe with climate change. The rain patterns have changed. It's much harder coming down. It's less ways to actually for the land to absorb that water. So tell us a little bit about stormwater runoff and why it's such a critical issue here and really all over the globe.
Sure. It's the overall process for the last several hundred years as our country has developed has been to exit the water away from the property as fast as possible to eliminate flooding in basements and streets and neighborhoods. What we have found over time is that when you combine that with also the urbanization and growth, that the pollutants are then picked up from everything from yard waste to agriculture waste, and with the increasing population, it becomes harder and harder to capture all of that.
Well, we're a nation now that's fifth in the world as far as the population is concerned. We're moving up in that. We've got almost, 318 million people. We're now a little over 80% urbanized within the United States, and the United Nations projecting by 2050 the world will be, that urban area, but we're already there. So how is that handling of that stormwater? We were trying to get rid of it and put it someplace else, but now we're looking at it in a very different way. What is this different way, Gore?
Well, the new way is really to try and mimic Mother Nature and really trying to get the built environment from rooftops to cisterns to reuse and recapture to really try and catch. In Washington, D.C., it rains about 42 inches a year. So it rains about an inch every 9 days or so. And what we can do with that to both prevent pollution runoff as well as to be able to capture and utilize that as the area urbanizes and redevelops in the future.
Now, looking at Washington, D.C., this is when before this was the capital city. It was part Maryland, the other part Virginia. It was a great swampy area, supposedly. I wasn't around in those days. I don't think you were either, Gore. And so we have all the surface water, or we had all the surface water. So what is happening to this water over time, and then where is all this water going?
So as the area has developed and urbanized, you've got everything from rooftops to streets to the alleyways, and you've got all the combined sewer. Originally, these sewer lines that were put in were actually both sanitary sewers as well as stormwater runoff. So there's a tremendous combined sewer issue in the older areas of the DC metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm. So looking at that, I know there's new legislation that was passed recently by City Council, and they want to address this. this. They're forcing landowners and even homeowners to be able to deal with this, as they call, the point on-site handling of all that. And also they passed some very interesting legislation about to help you or to make sure that you're paying for all this excess water. It's going in to the system that goes out to DC Water, or what's affectionately known as Blue Plains.
Correct. Washington, D.C., their Department of Environment has actually passed a really innovative regulation and an innovative finance model. It's being tested. It's been tried a couple times. It'll be interesting to see how it evolves. But it's basically creating a credit market so that those that create stormwater credits can sell them to those that need them. Redevelopment and development of high rises in Washington, although their high rises in Washington are as high as other cities, when you take a 1 or 2 story building and turn it into 13 or 14 stories, that impact doesn't change as much of the landscape. So in order to get the same stormwater effect, there has to be other measures implemented in order to be able to achieve the overall pollution reduction and runoff reduction that the city wants to achieve over the next 20 years.
Now, you were talking about a very innovative way when we had meetings with the Blue Plains, and we're talking about involving the communities of faith, other nonprofit organizations, because there's vast amount of land holdings by the nonprofits and the faith community within Washington, D.C. And we're thinking about, rural areas, it's wide open, it's easier to manage, but in such a congested area as downtown Washington, D.C., it's more difficult. But yet you came up with a very innovative way saying that you don't need all this open space, that we can, build off of the areas that really already been developed.
Yes, the new code actually introduces the possibility of having existing property owners into the stormwater management credit market. So instead of just new projects, new buildings, new types of schools, parks, office buildings, you name it, instead of only those organizations being able to be in the stormwater management business, now existing facilities can be in the stormwater management business and actually retrofit, solve some of their own drainage problems, and actually be financially incentivized to create credits to be able to sell in the open market.
Now, looking at this, there's the ward system. There's 8 wards in Washington, D.C., but they're quite different as far as socioeconomic backgrounds. And I understand there's some special considerations maybe for Ward 8 and 7 that can allow the various citizens and the organizations there to realize some maybe even sustainable income for, say, the churches, the mosques, the temples, or what have you. How do you think that's going to work?
Right now, it looks like, and most of these sites they're all site specific. There's 2 very large things that have to be analyzed by like a firm like us up front, which is the geology as well as the hydrology. So how the water flows on the surface and how the ground would absorb that water. Once we do that analysis, we can actually advise those property owners as to whether their site would be a potential credit generator if they go in. And so what the city wanted to be able to do was incentivize those property owners to be able to sell those credits to other larger developments that might need those credits in another area where it makes sense to retrofit existing sites.
Looking at these high-rise, and of course nothing could be higher than the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. It really is a restricted height, which is actually quite good as far as the aesthetics of that. And so looking at all these various high-rises that we have in downtown D.C., in the various business and improvement areas, how does that then relate to these areas that may be in the outlying but still within the city limits of Washington, D.C.?
So what the new stormwater regulation allows a property owner to be able to do when say a 2 or 3 story building is about to turn into a 14-story building, they can actually run an economic model as to whether it makes sense to help to redevelop sites in other parts of the city to help meet their stormwater criteria.
Now, looking at these business owners owners, in the downtown areas, what's the incentive for them to do this? I mean, why would they go through, all this evaluation, have a firm like yours come in and tell them what they should or should not do? I mean, why not just keep doing what they're doing?
So the evaluation is purely space and economics. It's the utilization of the real estate to the highest and best use, and also in order to be incentivized to purchase credits from another site that's then getting redeveloped. The code actually requires a certain amount to be done yourself, but then a certain amount you can buy from credits from another site.
Now, when you say be done by yourself, you're really, the pressure is really on the business owners or the landowners of that particular property, whatever it is, to handle all that storm water. So the burden really has been shifted from the city and the processing, the representative, which would be Blue Plains, back to the landowner. Is this something that's been coming gradually, or is this something because of climate change, or what's really been the impetus for this?
The main impetus has been mandates from the EPA under what's called the MS4 requirements.
And that's the United States Environmental Protection Agency.
Correct, as well as the overall follow-ons and regulations that stem from the Clean Water Act. One of the large issues you have in our urban area, especially one that loves parking garages, is when you dig down several stories underground, you're taking out the exact soil that you would need in order to infiltrate. When you have a zero lot line and you have basements next to each other from building to building, there's really not much room in the right-of-way between all of the utilities and everything from electric manholes to sewer manholes, sanitary sewer manholes that you want to contain, communication lines. It is a thorough underground maze in Washington, D.C. And so to introduce water into that environment, especially given a lot of the geology in the lower lying areas, can actually become a problem.
Yeah. Looking at, and we're just about out of time, but looking at all these considerations as far as dealing with this water, shedding that water somewhere else or processing it, there, what are some of the technologies that exist that allows the property building owners to do it there versus selling these credits and trying to do it somewhere else?
And so there is
we have to be quick.
Yeah, there's an evolving economic model in that, and it is all site specific. And there's no one blanket answer for that right now. And
so there's just many technologies and many products out there in the marketplace.
Absolutely, everything from cisterns to water recapture to green roofs to geotechnical infiltration systems.
But you're the guy in demand to figure all that. We got about 20 seconds. Where do you see your company going in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Well, we hope to be a big part of cleaning up the river and the watershed.
That's fantastic. And of course, this all deals with Chesapeake Bay, which is a real issue for everyone, Gore. Anyway, this is our Gore Bolton. He's a professional engineer, also a professional land surveyor with A&T Consulting Engineers and Surveyors. Thank you for being with us. And thank you, viewers, for being with us to learn more about how we're going to take care of all this water situation and climate change as we look around the globe to create the Emerald Planet.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we're looking for those 1,000 best practices, the best of the best as we call it, for the products, the technologies, the services that are making a difference as we move towards 2050 when the world, the planet, will have about 9 billion souls. And so as we look for how we're going to provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, and all the basic infrastructure, one of those things, of course, is the water. And we have a very interesting organization here that we're going to learn about. Sitting right beside me is Gore Bolton, who's a professional engineer and founder of what's called the Potomac Piranhas. I love this name. And there's the, we got the logo. Good. And then sitting right beside him is David Goodenow, and he's the CEO of Dragonfly Landing Inc. And you're one of the Piranhas, I understand.
I am.
So hopefully you don't mind we call you Piranha. But anyway, Gore is going to tell us about this organization. I love this logo that you have, so we had to put it up there also with your tagline, which we're going to ask you about in a few minutes. And thank you for bringing David to come out and talk about what is a piranha. And Gore, tell us a little bit about this organization. Very cute name, great logo.
Very cute name, very much inspired by a very popular capitalistic shark show. And we decided, what I saw in this space was a need to really talk about innovation, capital, and entrepreneurship in clean watershed, and to really borrow best practices from other accelerated industries that have used modern think tanks and collaboration in order to drive innovation.
Mm-hmm. Looking at this, what is a watershed? This is something we throw this around in the environmental field. Everybody goes, yeah. I'm not sure many people really know what a watershed is.
Right. So the Potomac watershed in general, which is what we're focusing on right now, encompasses about 5 million people in the DC metropolitan area. And it's composed of several, the Potomac River itself, several tributaries, several upper branches from the Anacostia to points north. And really, it's about everybody that lives, works, plays, and enjoys time there, whether they vacation there, whether they come here, whether you're at the airport or whether you're at the train station, you're in our watershed with us together.
Yeah. Now, looking at this, really the focal point of this, of course, is Chesapeake Bay. And all this water and nutrient loading into the bay, it's a real concern. Of course, that ends up into Atlantic Ocean. So what is the Chesapeake Bay? How large is it? And how then we're going to be addressing this through this Potomac Piranhas to make sure that we're backing up about 400 years worth of overburden to the Chesapeake Bay.
Right, so the idea of the Potomac Piranhas is really to be able to focus on the inland sub-areas that are a little bit more manageable than the entire Chesapeake Bay, and have the communities that are actually on each side of the river, or in this case, on 3 sides of the river, especially in downtown Washington, D.C., to really come together in a sense of community and a gathering place around a common need. It provides transportation, recreation. It's a great amenity. As everybody knows, waterfront property is premium in this area. But then also how that relates to the upper parts of the watershed, the agricultural uses, and the lower parts of the watershed, the the fishing and all of those types of natural resources activities.
I tell you, we have to have all this. Plus, as we greatly expand the population base, we really need the potable water. And unless we take care of all this, including the Chesapeake Bay, eventually we're going to run out. And so this is something that people don't really think about. It's just always been there, but we are stretching the limits of our natural resources. So looking at a hackathon through the Potomac Piranhas, one, tell us what a real piranha is, if you don't mind, David.
Sure.
And then what's a hackathon?
Okay, well, a piranha, for me, being a piranha, my professional experience prior to this was I was an architect, and I'd worked on over 500,000 square feet of U.S. Green Building Council's LEED certified projects. So I get involved with the environment through doing large projects like that with the federal, local, and private enterprises. So what I get involved with is I'm interested in innovation around the environment, around ethical practices, and businesses that make sense.
This takes a lot of time, and you and I were talking about this before the program, the amount of time that you invest in. Of course, I know Gore spends an exorbitant amount of time on something like this. He's a very busy professional, as you, David, but yet both of you feel like this is something you really need to do. Why invest in something like the Potomac Piranhas and spend weekends and nights and all this to really move this forward and try to bring out people that really need help as far as investments in their technologies, services, or the products? Well,
it matters. Plain and simple, it matters to not only the region but the planet. And if there's anything to be involved with while I'm here on it, it's going to be something that makes a difference.
Now, looking at this as we're going to do the 4 wins instead of 3, the win, the win, the win, and the win. So it's the local governments, it's the private businesses, it's the private investors, and also the inventors are all involved, and the general public. So it's really almost a 5th win. How do you do this work, weave this magic through these hackathons and all that, so that at the end of the day, good things are really happening, making a difference, having a real impact, and you know what those impacts are?
Right. Well, it's really through communication. It's through the conversations. It's through just having a great idea is one thing. Another thing is the implementation. And when it hits the community like that, it's all about communication. It's that simple. For me, that's that simple.
Yeah, Gore, the same question to you. How do you have all the string of wins so that everybody involved in this? Because if you look at the list of people that you're in contact with about this, to do an event, whenever that is, right, it's a lot of people to get involved.
Well, it comes down to the fact we're all neighbors. And if we treat each other as a community and we get together on a common cause and we recognize that whether you're an attorney or an engineer or a doctor or a plumber and an electrician, we're all in the same watershed, and we all enjoy going out to the waterfront together. We all enjoy having a glass of clean water. So it really is about what is common amongst all of us.
Now, looking at this is something you and I have been talking about and actually been doing some traveling concerning the Stormwater Retention Credit Training Program. What is that? Very long title, but in a short burst of information, what is it really and how is this working?
Well, in short, the several municipalities, including Washington, D.C., have created a trading program very similar to what most people would think of as a futures market. And people will be able to create credits if they treat more stormwater than is required under regulations, and they'll be able to sell those on an open market that the District Department of Environment has set up on their website.
David, looking at your architect, worked as an architect, you do land development and all that. How do you see this working as far as this stormwater credits, with these building owners? Because you're the one that's really the closest to them of anyone that we've been talking to. So how do you see this unfolding over the years, and because this is going to be going for many years? Yeah,
it's a new venue for talking about the environment. There's so many different programs out there now. This one to me is really cutting edge because of its integration with the financing that's coming through the public realm, and I think we're going to be able do a lot with that for the benefit of the community.
Tell us about these, the piranhas involved in this, and you don't have to, it's not about names, but it's about the backgrounds of people involved. Is this only bankers or investment brokers? What kind of people get involved in this? And what do they see? What's the benefit for them? Because they're one of these wins that's part of this whole thing.
Right. I think that a good business idea and the communication that's there really applies to really any level of participation. So we have people that are in real estate. I happen to be one of those. Others that are involved in training and development of people, in business. But just, you can get involved at any level, and I think all of it's scalable. And I get involved with businesses that I think will be scalable over time. And this platform is a great one. And we're going to have some great pitches coming soon, and get involved with those. We'll commit with them, and we'll commit with dollars and support.
Gore, looking at this, and how are you putting together these various piranha, if I can keep using that term, and what are you looking for as far as background, the scope and scale of what it is either they're now doing or what you think they may be able to do in the future? How do you select through all that? Because there's hundreds and thousands of people that you could select from to be a part of that group.
Absolutely. The overall piranha needs to first of all be an investor grade mentality and background, and also the next thing is care about the watershed. And so when you put those two things together, it's a conversation that is new from the standpoint of actually how we can be in the stormwater and in the watershed cleanup business and talk about innovations that apply to that in order to create investment returns.
Looking at this logo we have here, putting innovation and capital together to fix our watershed. Some people may think, that's very local, it's very quaint, this watershed business, but yet it's very profound. And what, as somebody that's in this business, how profound is this, being able to take care of this vast area, this one of the largest watersheds on the planet, and to be sure that we're taking care of this for, future 5, 10, 15 generations, all the way to the end of the 21st century.
Well, I think that's part of why it's attractive to everyone that we've talked to, is being able to really see a much bigger picture than any one of us, and also being able to see a larger impact on the entire community. And being able to apply practices and innovation and capital that have been in other industries for hundreds of years in some cases, and apply them to an ecological issue is a relatively new approach. And so it's just time to do that. And so I declared that it was time to do it, and so we're doing it.
You're doing it. We're almost out of time, David, but LEED standard applied to new buildings in downtown. How does this addressing the watershed fit into this? And we've got about 30 seconds to do all that.
Well, there is a small part of LEED that's we call it sustainable sites. It has to do with selection and how to deal with issues on the site and regarding water as well. This is before that, so the building has a little, we have about 10 feet outside of the building that usually the architects and a lot of folks care about. But what happens beyond that is what this is all about.
It's fantastic. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. This is Gore Bolton. He's a professional engineer, founder of the Potomac Piranhas, and sitting right beside him is David Goodenow. And he has his own organization. He's the CEO of Dragonfly Landing, Inc. And thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Art, a universal language, an expression of culture, of self. And now, thanks to Empowered Women International, a way for emerging and established immigrant and refugee artists and artisans to find hope to earn a living while enriching the lives of all of us. Empowered Women International, making a better America every day. For more information on Empowered Women International's educational programs or to make a tax-free donation, contact C. Fripp at AOL.com.
Here, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Here, kitty, kitty.
You'd think it would be easy to tell which kids have trouble with their eyesight. But that's not always the case. Even though 1 in 4 children may have a vision problem, eye doctors tell us the symptoms aren't always so obvious. We do know that 80% of all childhood learning is visual. And without good vision, kids can have trouble learning to read and may fall behind in school. For clues on how to spot the real-life signs of childhood vision problems and what parents can do, visit checkyearly.com. A public service message from the Vision Council of America, and reading is fundamental.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations looking for those 1,000 best practices, the ones that are going to make a difference as we add 2 billion new people to the planet by 2050. And of course, one of the major considerations, probably the most important consideration, is potable water and how we're going to be able to sustain a planet with 9 billion souls so that everyone has adequate water at the same time to produce the forest and the food, the fiber that is needed by all these new people. And now we're tying together Washington, D.C. and the United Kingdom to talk about these very issues. We have 2 gentlemen that are going to be joining us by Skype, and I have one sitting right in the studio with me that's going to be here as part of the interview. One is Joseph. He goes by Joe Anthony O'Mara, who is the CEO. And then we have Matthew Dale, who is a managing director of what's called Groundwater Dynamics Limited of the United Kingdom. They're going to be here by Skype. And then we have Margaret Bicz, who is Vice President of TerraMarCo, sitting in the studio. And Margaret, welcome here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. And as we know, your husband has been on before, and we welcome him. And Joe and Matt, I understand you guys are here and ready to go from the UK.
Absolutely, Dr. Sam. We're all ready to go. We've received your guidance with our setup, so yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Joe, why don't you start off and just tell us a little bit about your company, Groundwater Dynamics Limited, that is located in the United Kingdom.
Okay, Dr. 2 years ago, installing the EGRP system, and Matt and I are the first and only installer in the UK. We our first client, our first install was Edgbaston Cricket Ground, which is an international cricket ground. And in the very early days, we were literally out there hawking a sample of this plastic pipe. And although people were interested, it was pretty difficult in the early days because we didn't have any reference sites or any installs. What is true about the product is that it changes people's perception of drainage from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional, where you can actually see the ground itself as becoming the medium for storage of water and an effective drainage system. So since those early days, we have moved forward with this non-conventional system, and we now have 20 installs behind us.
Joe, hold on just a minute. I want to bring up these images, if we can bring this up so that people know what we're talking about. We have this on the screen. I think you're able to see that there in the UK. Joe, tell us what we're looking at here and a little bit about the dynamic of something that seems very simple but yet quite profound in the handling of stormwater and any kind of surface water that needs to be dealt with.
Sure, yeah. What you're looking at there is the energy passive groundwater recharge product. It's a vertical drainage system. These pipes are fitted into vertical boreholes in the ground up to 40 feet deep. Most of those holes are between 5 and 10 feet deep. The 20 and 40 footers make a smaller number. But basically, the machine you see in front of you there is a drill rig, a 2.8 ton drill rig. We drill the holes in a certain pattern based on a design drawing. And then we insert the system to about 1 foot to 2 feet beneath the surface of the ground. What you're looking at right now is the system becoming acclimated. As the soil comes around it, the system engages, and basically you can see water, that there are fissures that are created around the system, which basically take the water back out into the ground at lower unsaturated depths, taking the water away from the surface.
I'm going to put this in up, Joe, and I want to leave this so we can involve Matt. Matt, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV. But looking at your organization and with the name that you have, you're looking at water, but also you're balancing the environmental protection as well as economic development in the UK through this very innovative technology. How do you balance all that so that you're meeting all of these various requirements and at the same time improving the environment for everyone?
Well, Dr. Sam, that's very interesting because over the last 2 decades, the government have been looking into stormwater control and source control. So instead of transferring the problem from one area to another, the incentive in the UK is to deal with it at source. So what the government came up with was something called the SUDS review, which is the Sustainable Urban Drainage Review, which essentially is helping us deal with stormwater at source. What the EGRP is enabling us to do is exactly that. So rather than pushing the problem to another part of the earth, we're dealing with it at source. So this is where the EGRP comes into play.
Joe, looking at this, I'm going to look at this Piranhas Energy Passive Groundwater Recharge Product. Man, what a title that is. But yet, it takes absolutely, as I understand it, no energy to do all this, and you can capture up, I understand, over 60% and handle the water on site, and you're only pushing, you know, another, say, 1/3 of that somewhere else to be processed. So how did you first come across this technology, and why did you think this is something that you could use for the United Kingdom?
Well, in the first instance, we were raising money for investment management funds in the energy sector, and we were in solar, wind power, gasification. We came across EGRP through Craig McParlin, who was a colleague of ours we worked with in that sector. Having seen and understood the product, we took a trip out to Detroit, carried out our due diligence, and guess what? We didn't want to raise money for this one. We actually wanted to acquire the license ourselves, which we did for the UK and Ireland. So here we are today, 2 years or 2.5 years down the road, and we're doing very well. And the message is out, the product is developing, and those photographs that you just had on your screen show the results.
Yes, let's bring up these. Hold on, just there we go. Okay, tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here, and we can definitely see the before and after. How did the Piranhas do all of this?
Well, this ground actually has no existing drainage whatsoever. It's surrounded by car parking, and it's solid clay. So the only place for this water to go is into the ground and into the Piranhas system. We had this site tested by a company called STRI, Sports Turf Research Institute, and after their testing, they classified the system as a primary drainage system, which means it doesn't have to rely on any other form of drainage to get all of that water away. So 100% of what you see there, and in this picture, this site is being dumped on from 2 rugby fields further up the hill. And the houses to the right-hand side were flooding all the time. Since we installed, it looks like the picture on the right, and no more flooding.
That is absolutely incredible. Margaret, looking at TerraMarCo, this is something that's very exciting, and I've been listening to this message now a number of times. It's still amazing what it is that you have going on here. But how do you see this? This is kind of a combination of water. It's passive energy, because you don't need to have any energy to this. But how did you come to collaborate with the gentleman in the United Kingdom?
Well, TerraMarCo has been researching and looking for the past 8 years of different water and energy technologies and partnerships. And we met Water Dynamics because of our common interest in Piranhas. As we all know, they're working in the UK, and TerraMarCo is working here in Chesapeake Bay, working to deploy Piranhas. So we met through Piranhas, but we had great synergies and common interests, and decided that it would be wonderful to move forward in collaboration together in certain projects in different parts of the world.
That's fantastic. Matt, looking at this, and we have this the before and after, and I'm going to put another slide up in just a few minutes. But how is this Piranhas looking at the officials there, the investors, landowners, all the stakeholders around something that we're looking at here? How do they feel about this, and why are they willing to something that's really brand new to allow you to bring in this new technology and apply it just to see how it would work?
Well, over the next 6 years, the UK government has pledged £2.3 billion as part of their capital expenditure on flood defence. So as part of that process, infrastructure such as construction, road, rails, airports, all of these companies now are looking to make sure that their groundwater and their flood defences are of the utmost capability. Where we see the opportunity for EGRP is that with its capability of dealing with that sort of groundwater, that the possibilities are endless. As you can see from the examples in those pictures, the results are also just tremendous.
Yeah, look, let's bring this back up, because I want to ask another question about this. Looking at the before and after of this, Matt, and the fact that this is actually passive, you don't need to have any type of energy source to this. How do you see this being applied in very tightly constricted urban areas where you have a lot of surfaces, impervious surfaces, not being able to absorb this water, but yet the demand by the government, if I understand what you're saying in the UK, is really to do as much point site processing as possible?
Well, quite often in these types of areas that you're seeing on the picture there is no natural outflow for the surface water. So where the EGRP becomes so important is you can install the system with, as you can see on that picture there is no natural outfall for that surface water. So other than EGRP, it's very difficult to remove that. So once that system's installed, you're taking that surface water, storm water, back into the ground naturally, rather than transferring it from that problem area to another area.
That's amazing, and no additional power needed. Margaret, we're running out of time. What do you see for the future of the work that you're doing as far as the Piranhas systems, UK and beyond?
Well, I definitely see us moving into Africa together. Absolutely. We have common interests, market channels in place, and so we foresee moving in that direction in the future.
So you see Piranhas really moving forward in a very proactive and aggressive manner then in the UK and other places?
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. And guys, last question. We're running out of time. What do you see there, Joe, as far as the future? And be quick, please.
Very simple. The government here measure their drainage targets using systems that are 50 years old. We want to encourage them to use modern systems and to incorporate EGRP and modern types of drainage.
Well, thank you for being with us, Joe O'Mara and Matt Dale, and also Margaret Bicz sitting right beside me. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folk, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit asha.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello, and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States. I'm Dr. Sam Hancock, the President and Executive Director of Emerald Planet and Director of Host of the Emerald Planet TV. We come to you from Washington, D.C. and truly from around the globe on a weekly basis to give you the insights into the technologies, the services, and the products that are carrying us through the 21st century as we go to a planet that's going to be adding 2 billion new people by 2050, and almost 80% of the entire world's population will be living in urban areas. And so how do we provide the food, the fuel, the fiber, the water, all the basic infrastructure that's needed, plus education and healthcare? That's a mighty list that we have to deal with, adding all these new people at the same time to take care of those that are already here. We have 3 people are going to be talking about water and how to actually improve the water quality, at the same time to be able to handle it because of climate change. The rain patterns are different, the velocity of the water is actually falling to the earth, and the earth's ability to absorb as we become more and more urban is being impaired. So we have Matt Dale, he is the Managing Director, and then Joseph Anthony O'Mara, who's the CEO of what's called Groundwater Dynamics Limited of the United Kingdom. And they're coming in by Skype, and sitting right beside me is Margaret Bicz, who is the Vice President of TerraMarCo, and she's in Washington, D.C., and sitting right here in the studio. So Matt and Joe, welcome to the Emerald Planet TV by Skype.
How's it going?
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
How are you?
Glad to have you here. And Margaret, thank you for being here as our special guest in the studio. Matt, tell us a little bit about the Groundwater Dynamics Limited, and it's a leader for processing water in the UK. And why the focus on this issue, and what is the emphasis that's being made by the central government of the United Kingdom, but also at the local county and city levels?
Well, in the United Kingdom, there is no single body responsible for managing floodwater or stormwater risk. What we believe the EGRP technology can do is help local communities develop long-term plans to deal with this and turn this into saving taxpayers' money. Individual households are being flooded, roads are becoming flooded, communities are being cut off. With the help of this technology and the work that we're doing with the US and ourselves, we believe that the EGRP can make great strides in improving this infrastructure.
Well, I'm going to let Joe talk about that, and we're going to bring up some slides here about the technology. But my understanding, Matt, that actually you have the representation rights for both the United Kingdom and Holland. So you have a country that's been dealing with water and water issues literally its whole existence. So how do you see putting the two together, and what are you learning, or what you will be learning from each country that could be helpful to take around the globe? And of course, we're going to talk about this expansion plans that you're thinking about.
Well, the UK itself, if those people that don't know, is an island of 65 million people. So we have a tremendous water problem that needs dealing with every winter. January through to March is probably one of the wettest periods you will find here in the UK. So expanding that into our neighbouring country, which is Ireland, similar problems they come across. So we're rolling this out slowly as we see now in the UK, hoping that we can then expand that into developing and neighbouring countries.
No, that's fantastic. Let's bring up the slides, and Joe, what I'm going to do is, because this is a very unique technology, there's over 300 of these projects globally, which is a great number, but I understand through you, and also Margaret is sitting right beside me here in the studio, that there'll probably be 1,000 of these in the very near future. So tell us what we're looking at here, and I'm going to advance the slides for you, and let's just kind of talk about this and through these slides that you've provided for us.
Okay, this slide is Edgbaston Cricket Ground. It's their #1 practice facility. This is just before an international tournament, about 6 weeks before. This area was flooding. It was an area that's required for the tournament, and what we're doing here is drilling vertical boreholes, and you can see the EGRP devices on the floor there. We're dropping those down vertically and then capping them. What's unique here is that we can install for a whole day and come off this ground, and you can't even see that we've been there. There is no disruption. Those cricketers can go and play on that ground literally an hour after we come off, which is pretty unique, because normally a drainage system requires digging trenches, lots of heavy machinery, and lots of disruption.
Now looking, and also too, many times, even though you're in the UK, there's some nations that have developed specialized drain systems. So what you're doing is you're just leapfrogging beyond all these traditional ways of shedding water and allowing it to actually, most of it, to stay on site. Is that correct, Joe?
That's right. In fact, the tests showed that the very wettest parts of this ground were the ones which drain the quickest. This picture is a rugby field in a town called Harbury. We are just starting the job here. You can see the machines mounted on mats, so it doesn't disturb the ground. This pitch is at the bottom of a huge slope and was collecting water on the surface. This pitch now, this is March this year, March 2014 we installed here. This pitch is now finished. It looks $1 million, and the club and everybody who attends there comments on how good it looks. This just shows one of our guys actually cutting golf holes, taking a piece of turf out before we insert the devices. We take a huge amount of care not to disturb the playing field surface. And there he is dropping, that's just a 5-footer, dropping the 5-footer into one of the holes that's been drilled.
My understanding is these go in 5 feet at a time down to about the maximum, about 40 feet. Is that correct, Joe?
That's correct, Joe. The 5-footers, they collect the water, the 40 feet and the 20 feet, they distribute it to lower unsaturated levels.
Okay, and then we go to this next one here, and this is what you're talking about, this zero disruption. This is what's amazing about the system. You can go in, literally do this in the morning, early afternoon, and then the pitch is ready that afternoon to start playing on.
Yes, Dr. Sam, it's a huge USP, because a conventional system would take that ground out of action for about 9 months to 12 months. We could hand it back that afternoon, and we don't disrupt the schedule of the sporting club. We were at a sporting club the other day, 2 pitches, 700 members of the club. They can't afford to lose a pitch for a year. You can see on this picture, you can see the lines in the background there. This was 3 weeks into the install. We still had 2 more weeks to do on this particular ground. but they carry on playing. And that means revenue for the club, it means the club can survive, doesn't have to rent grounds elsewhere, and they retain players, and the club can grow.
Now, looking at this, I understand the impetus for the club and all that. What does the local council governments think about something like this, coming in, taking care of water that quickly? Are they amazed, or can they actually believe what you're telling them before you actually get started?
No, they don't believe it until they've seen it, and we can tell them that it's working in the States. They won't believe that either. It's only after putting installs here in the UK that they begin to believe, because they will go visit, we're carrying out tests, and really testimonials from people who use the site means everything to us. With 20 installs in now, we are no longer at the point where we are trying to prove that the system works. We know it works now, it's just a question of design and making sure we get the design right to fit the needs of the client.
Well, Margaret, going to you, I know that you're looking at Africa, Southeast Asia, and maybe even Latin America to expand. Why do you want to take this technology into these areas? What makes it attractive to have this in these various regions outside of the European Union and the United States?
Well, water harvesting is critical. Equally as critical is eliminating surface water that breeds malaria, and it's also incredibly important that Parjana can also recharge agricultural soil. So it's one technology that we've mentioned before is energy passive that can have this phenomenal impact on our planet, and we see working together to deploy that internationally and really help to mitigate and help this problem that we have.
Now, this is a very simple technology. I brought this back up, Margaret, and let's look at this for a minute. I mean, this is really the system. This guy has it in his hands. There's no external energy that needs to be applied to this. How can something that simple actually work? And then I want to ask the engineers about this whole question too. Go ahead.
That is the million-dollar question. What it really does is it actually activates the microbes in the soil. So it allows the groundwater to be dispersed horizontally within the soil. And it actually mimics the human body as far as having that water come in and pumps it throughout the soil, just like the heart does with the blood through our veins and through arteries.
It's amazing, because I met the inventor of this, and that's exactly as he described it, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. Matt, looking at this, how do you teach others? I know you want to expand into Africa and the Middle East and other places around the globe. So what do you need to be able to teach others, and how long does it take to teach people to use this equipment that we've been looking at here?
Well, the USPs for this product are absolutely endless. In terms of teaching people, once they understand the basics and the mechanics of how the system works, and then they understand how to install the system, you know, these guys can be up and running within months. As been repeated here, there's no external energy source required. The EGRP works with the Earth's natural energy. There's no external outflows needed, so there's no need for retention ponds or man-made soakaways. And as Joe illustrated earlier, the minimal disruption on this is just phenomenal. You can literally install the system, and the next day you would barely recognise that we've been there. So in terms of training people, you're talking about months as a process as opposed to years. These guys can be up and running and fully up to speed with how the system works very, very quickly.
Margaret, we've got about 30 seconds. You asked me about how quick is quick, about 30 seconds. And what do you see for the growth of sharing this around the globe?
Well, I definitely see us collaborating with Joe and Matt and taking this out to Africa, first of all and foremost, and moving on into the Middle East and beyond. And there's my 30 seconds. I can hear
that's
it.
fantastic. You did a great job, and thank you for being in the studio. And Joe and Matt, thank you for being with us all the way from the UK. And it's just fantastic, the work that you're doing over there. And we look forward to having you back in the United States. And dear viewer, thank you for being with us as we look around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet.